Investors are fearing a trade war, and Americans are wondering what this means for their 401ks. We need to change the entire retirement picture in the U.S. Big, big questions.
As if Donald Trump hadn't already screwed over enough people as it is, he has now dropped an alarming bombshell on everyone's dreams of retiring or simply enjoying their retirement that has retirees in absolute panic. This as Trump essentially signs the death warrant for your golden years. And we have all the damning details of this breaking story come up, so make sure you stick around to find out what the long-term impact of this could be on your retirement savings, as well as some useful information on how to potentially offset the havoc Trump is wreaking on everyone's finances writ large. Though, of course, this is not financial advice. And on that note, the last person anyone should take financial advice from is the guy who bankrupted multiple casinos and now seems hell-bent on bankrupting the entire same country that he famously defrauded on multiple occasions.
The stock market crashed as Donald Trump was speaking yesterday, talking about how powerful and strong and alpha his tariffs are. And you could see in the lower right of the screen as the Dow Jones was simply collapsing.
Very importantly, tomorrow tariffs 25% on Canada and 25% on Mexico, and that'll start. So they're going to have a tariff. So what they have to do is build their car plants, frankly, and other things in the United States, in which case they have no tariff.
But it's not just the stock market crashing and depleting people's savings or the insanely high prices that give all your dollars less purchasing power that have alarm bells blaring for workers and retirees alike. Though many were quick to panic at this news, some writing, "Dear US government, we're going to need you to email us with 5 bullet points on exactly what you did this last week to cause this." Holy, retirement accounts are being wiped out by stupid f***ing tariffs. Someone sarcastically saying 5 things Donald Trump has done this week: wipe out your retirement savings, raise the cost of groceries, gas, and housing with tariffs. And this person hitting the nail on the head, so beautiful, you're going to take her Social Security, her Medicare, her husband's VA benefits, her pension, and her disability assistance, and she's going to have to pay an additional $3,900 in taxes to afford your tariffs. So even if she's lucky enough to remain healthy, she'll be broke. But here's the kicker, folks, and I do promise there is some relatively good news at the end, as well as some useful information. But as Donald Trump's economic policies become reality and we see them in practice, some utterly game-changing questions are beginning to pop up about how Americans save for retirement, and both the questions and the answers are pretty bleak. Just listen to the glum predictions raised by CNN's global economic analyst and associate editor at the Financial Times as Trump's tariff plan comes into effect.
Have here in pulling back now a few times from the harshest threats that he's made.
Well, you know, when you say game theory, it assumes that there's a theory, and I don't see one here. I don't really understand what victory looks like, particularly when it comes to Canada and Mexico. I mean, what concessions are we really looking for? We're talking about mixing trade with fentanyl. 0.2% comes in from Canada. I'll tell you what does come in from Canada: lumber. And I was talking to some home builders today that were saying, you know what, at a time when America has a housing shortage that's driving up prices, we're going to slow building because we don't know what our costs are going to be. Agricultural products are going to go up. China is retaliating. That's going to put pressure on farmers in red states. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. And it seems like some kind of a power play that nobody can make sense of.
And the markets were up today, but in general, investors, they're not happy about these things.
They're absolutely not. And I spent a lot of phone time today with money managers and even pension funds that are saying, okay, wait a minute. You know, first of all, we don't know what's going to happen from day to day. We don't have trust. We're starting to think about, should we actually fundamentally rethink the assumptions, frankly, since the 1980s, that you put your money in an index fund, you keep it mostly in the U.S. asset markets. Do we need to look more broadly? Do we need to change the entire retirement picture in the U.S.? Big, big questions.
Yeah, it's not exactly great when a global economic analyst is asking if we have to fundamentally rethink the entire retirement picture. But somewhat fortunately, there have been historic similarities to what is going on, and the president of the Wealth Alliance offered this advice to those who are panicking right now.
Investors are fearing a trade war, and Americans are wondering what this means for their 401ks. Among other big financial decisions, let's bring in Eric Diden, the president and managing director of the Wealth Alliance. Eric, thank you for being with us. Walk us through what's happening right now in the markets. It's pretty scary, and how it's all connected to Trump's tariffs. I'm telling all my friends, do not look at your 401ks.
Well, it's interesting. We're just about 5 years later from COVID. And 5 years ago, the stock market dropped about 35% in 5 weeks. 401ks plummeted. And quite frankly, there was nothing good in the horizon. It was every reason to sell out of stocks. We looked like we were on the verge of a global depression. If you locked in those losses, it was brutal. You could not recover from that. So the first thing is you don't panic. Okay. You stay calm.
And of course, that's easy to say for this guy who is probably pretty immensely wealthy. While it is very easy and warranted to panic, it is worth keeping the long-term horizon in mind when it comes to major financial decisions like your retirement.
He is a ruthless negotiator, and even though he wants the stock market to do well, he does not mind short-term pain to achieve his results. And so that's where we're at. There are tariffs. They are painful. We're just starting. I think it's going to get uglier. But to try to actually decide when this is going to bottom, how this is going to turn, I don't think Donald Trump knows exactly what he's going to do yet. And we certainly do not. What we do know, at least I believe, is that the tariffs against Canada and Mexico, I don't believe they're permanent. I think these are negotiating ploys. I think China is a different story, a major competitive threat. And I think those tariffs could really stick for the foreseeable future. The bottom line is have faith in the system. Know that the president's not trying to destroy the economy.
Now, personally, I have incredibly little faith in the system, and waiting it out is a much easier thing to say and to do for someone my age who is not retired yet, but much harder for people who are on the brink of retiring or already retired and watching their savings plummet.
We're talking about costing the median household like $1,900 a year. When you're barely able to put food on the table, right, you're living paycheck to paycheck, that could be a tremendous impact.
So unfortunately, the age-old adage of you can't time the market is especially at play here. But I'm very curious to hear from y'all. Where do you fall on this? And who do you even trust anymore when it comes to financial planning and preparing for the outlook of an incredibly uncertain future? Let me know in those comments down below. Check out the resources in the description. And while you're there, drop a like and subscribe to the Really American channel. For Really American, I'm Kenny Hesse, and I'll see you all in the next one.